What you are about to see is a most gruesome sight. A Pokemon game that lasts only 4 turns. Bowerdad here, and welcome to Why Did I Lose? A series in which I seek to answer that very question. And no, it's not because your opponent got to attack even though they were confused. In this game, I'm gonna spoil it. I made the wrong lead. I'll explain later how I could have known that, but we start off on a very rocky foot. Nonetheless, there are still some things we can learn by analyzing the rest of this game. Come along. My opponent leads with good old Tornogre, and I lead with Landorus and Tornadus. This is a really bad lead matchup for me. I decide that I am already on the back foot. I will Dynamax my Landorus in order to max Rockfall the Tornadus. My Tornadus has to Tailwind. It has to Tailwind in order to match the Tailwind of my opponent. One of the critical pieces of this turn is that my Landorus goes first. I have to Rockfall to get rid of Kyogre's Rain, or I have to max Quake for the special defense boost. I need one of those two things to happen in order to survive the Origin Pulse from Kyogre. In the case of this first turn, I choose that Rockfall. I do KO the Tornadus, and I will talk about those implications later. But right now, I do take a Pokemon lead, but at a cost of some huge damage. My opponent puts in Venusaur to start the second turn. You'll see that I decide to max Airstream the Venusaur and cast Rain Dance with my Tornadus. That way, if my opponent decides to swap in Torkoal to get the jump on me with Venusaur, it will immediately have its Sun overwritten by my Rain. It ends up working out just fine, even though my opponent doesn't swap, I get the KO. But in practice, it wasn't really a super good idea because my opponent's Kyogre is in such an advantageous position. As you see right here, it picks up the double kill with Origin Pulse, so it really had no purpose to switch out. I'm going to put in my Kyogre and my Regieleki, my last two Pokemon. My opponent will bring in their Torkoal to replace the Venusaur that got KO'd, and this is how we're going to start turn number 3. The funny part about this game is at this point, I thought to myself, wow, I have this game in the bag. Regieleki Kyogre definitely beats Torkoal Kyogre. However, I forgot about the simple fact that my opponent still has their Dynamax. And that's going to be a problem. Going into the third turn, I made what I still believe is the optimal play. I Water Spout with Kyogre after doing an Electro Web with Regieleki in order to secure that speed advantage and deal as much damage as possible. Torkoal Dynamaxes, my moves will come out, I'll get the speed drop, and I'll get a nice bit of damage on both of them. Thankfully, the Thunder from my opponent's Kyogre will miss, but then the Torkoal is going to come in with the Max Flare and KO that Regieleki. This would have happened regardless of items, nature. If I had Light Screen up, this still happens. It's way too much damage. Going into the final turn, it is a little bit too late. I almost pick up the KO on both, but it's not enough, and they will double up and KO me. Worth noting here that I could have attempted a double protect to stall out the Dynamax and then KO the Torkoal. However, it's a 1 in 3 chance, and I still would have been left trying to deal with the Kyogre. However, could have gotten maybe a little closer. Why did I lose? I led incorrectly against my opponent. Now, you never have any idea what your opponent is going to do. Hindsight is always 20/20, yada yada yada. But let me tell you why I should have known to change my lead outside of what I did. I played this team in Players Cup 4 earlier this year, and I practiced hard for it. I must have played against dozens of Sun teams, and I eventually learned to lead all those matchups the same way. Landorus and Tornadus. The problem is, I fell into this same trap when I looked at my opponent's team for this game. It appeared to be a Sun team, but I didn't consider the key adjustment. It was 4 Sun Pokemon, and then Tornadus and Kyogre. I had never fought a team like this before, but I assumed that I would lead the same way as I would against Sun teams without considering the fact that my typical Sun team, or sorry, my typical Sun lead actually gets bodied by Tornadus and Kyogre. Now, I don't like the sound of losing on the lead because it takes away any control that I have to turn around the game to my favor before it even starts. That being said, the margin by which I lost this game is really, really thin. So I do have a couple of ideas for adjustments that maybe I could have made to tip the scales just a little bit in order to win. First and foremost, on the opening turn, I should have done Max Quake to Kyogre. Going straight for Tornadus was perhaps a little bit too aggressive. When I considered that the primary purpose of Tornadus here is to set Tailwind, I wasn't going to stop that, and aiming for Kyogre means I don't give my opponent the free switch into Venusaur. Secondly, on the second turn, I decided to predict a Torkoal switch into Venusaur so that Venusaur could not get the jump on me. It was a smart sounding plan, but my opponent's Kyogre was in a fantastic position and had no reason to swap out. Because of that, I could have instead done something a little bit more productive with my Tornadus, like a Hurricane, for example. That concludes episode 5 of Why Did I Lose? If you enjoyed the video, I would love to hear what you thought in the comments. You can also, if you enjoyed it, subscribe to this channel. My subscriptions are 0 down and 0 a month for a long, long time. It doesn't cost a thing. It helps me out a lot. I would appreciate it if you would like to support the channel in that way. Last but certainly not least, if you would like to catch some of these games live, I stream on Twitch every Thursday evening at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. Additionally, you can also find me on Twitter at BauerDadVGC for stream updates, other go live notifications, and just my random musings. Until next time, I hope everyone has a fantastic day.